Minister Littleproud, Federal Minister for Agriculture, great to have you again on the Flow Network.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
We saw this commentary from the Australian Workers Union about farmers and their interest in getting Pacific labour in. What's your view on what they've had to say this morning?
Oh, well, look, the AWU are just scaremongering. They've known from the start that these jobs are all market tested, whether they be under the Pacific scheme or under the new Ag visa. Australians get first crack at this. But farmers can't sit around and wait for someone to turn up. When their crops are ready and they're ripe, they need to get from their paddock to your plate. And if they don't have the labour, they miss out. And so the AWU have known that. And the fact that they continue to say that farmers, this generalisation that farmers are exploiting workers all the time is demonising Australian agriculture in an unfounded way. And I'd have to say, I find it a bit rich coming from the union movement, who've already had thugs and put away for jail out of the union movements for the actions that they've taken. So I don't think generally farmers do the wrong thing. There's a small minority like in industry, and you shouldn't make generalisations that demonise Australian farmers who, in whole, do a good job and look after their workers.
Has the union just misunderstood here? Don't they comprehend the lack of employment? There's lack of workers out there, low unemployment rates across the nation, especially regional Australia. There's simply a huge need for these workers across the agricultural sector.
Well, they don't want to care and understand any of this. The fact is, it's not just about low unemployment. It's about the fact that a lot of this work is transient, and many of the people who are unemployed at the moment are some thousands of kilometres away from where this work is. They have family commitments, and to bring them up and for a 2 or 3 week period and then have to move to another is a different type of lifestyle. And the union movement understands that. They're just scaremongering, making a lot of noise, and they're demonising farmers in a way that they should be ashamed of. And really, the facts remain, Australians have not wanted to do this work. There aren't enough Australians to do it anyway, and many of them are thousands of kilometres away. And farmers have been patient for far too long. It's time to allow them to make a quid and allow them to make investment decisions predicated on the fact they know there'll be someone there to help them grow it and pick it.
To what extent does this feed into perhaps, say, the Andrews government's slow movement when it comes to approving workers to come into the state in the past and at the moment? I mean, are they sort of listening with one ear to the likes of the AWU that maybe Australian workers are missing out on jobs to Pacific Islanders?
Well, it's not just the Victorian government. The Western Australian government's having a red-hot crack at this as well. They're the two governments that will not do the quarantining in their own states. They won't allow any of these people to quarantine in Victoria or Western Australia, so they're trying to send them to other states to do that quarantining. That adds to the complexity. We've cut the red tape. Simply, the Prime Minister said in December, the way to do this is the Premier and Chief Health Officer of each state simply writes to the Prime Minister with the quarantine arrangement that he or she and their Chief Health Officer are happy with, and we will sign the visas. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, the Andrews government has been leading the way in not even being prepared to re-sign a contract with Tasmania, who was taking all the risk for Victoria, with a contract that ends at the end of this month. So there's no certainty for any farmer in Victoria. They're beside themselves, and unfortunately we've seen that with the grains industry in WA, where McGowan has turned his back on them. We're just saying this is time for leadership, not for petty politics. Please, you know the rules. Everyone knows the protocols. They'll be made simple. Get on the pony with us, and we can solve this and let farmers finally make a quid after years of drought.
And just finally, the New South Wales ministers announced they're going to push for this Eastern Australia Agriculture Task Force. Is that a positive move in your view?
Well, it is, and a lot of the framework's already there, so we wish them all the best. There's this thing called the Ag Workers Code that we put in place after the states asked for it back in March last year. Unfortunately, not all the states signed up to it, and that included Tasmania and Queensland. In Western Australia. So if you look at the East Coast, there is a framework there for them to build on. We would hope that the states could finally work together, and this has been a real limiting factor of the COVID-19 that has shown big cracks in our federation. Our federation has failed farmers and it's failed regional Australians because we've got city-centric premiers and chief health officers making COVID decisions predicated off metropolitan issues, not off regional issues, and I wish them all the best, but the framework's there, they simply haven't signed up to it. So hopefully we'll see some of these states try and work together and have faith in one another and encouraging conviction to make some meaningful change.
Well, Minister, thanks for joining us on Flow, much appreciated.